Transmission is go. Underbase is live.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Underbase. My name is Adam, 88M, and welcome back to Monster Motors. Yes, part 2 of this crazy little series. And with me, to stop me screaming like a little girl, is Miss Nicole. Hello.
I will join you with screaming like a little girl. That's squeeing, I guess.
There we go. That's my scream.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. So, part 2. Young Vic Frankenstein's life changed forever when he defended the small town of Transylvania, Kentucky, from a monstrous vampiric vehicle called Cadillacula. Admittedly, it was his fault the creature had gotten loose, and he'd built his own monster motor truck, Frankenride, to turn the beast back. Any hopes he had for a career of invention, alongside heroic adulation for his efforts, were quickly cut short, however, finding himself charged for his actions by April Van Helsing and her famous monster-hunting father, his spirit now residing within a minivan. Both teams now find themselves under siege, as an accident brings the empty shells of the yard's wrecks back to life, surrounded by zombies, and with only an eclectic bunch of allies left, and fabulous hair. Is Vic's time up? Part 2 of Monster Motors, The Curse of MiniVan Helsing, written by Brian Lynch, illustrated by Nick Roach, colours by Leonard O'Grady, lettered by Tom B. Long, edited by Chris Rael, and editorial assistant Michael Benedetto. And also to add as well, Franco Uru was an artist that had worked with Brian Lynch on several Buffyverse Spike series for IDW. He passed away in 2012, and this 2-issue story is dedicated to Franco. It's nice. I like that.
I mean, what a perfect way. Continue on, the monstrous stories. Love it.
Absolutely. In fact, I do wonder if I'm surprised there's not more Buffyverse nods in the story. That might be something that the more perceptive of you can sort out.
Maybe they'll put more Buffy references when Cadillacula comes back.
And we shall talk at length about our plans for the 20-issue maxi series that we are expecting from these guys at the end of the review. Because we are.
I hope you're not lying. You better not be lying.
It's not. It's just a request at the moment.
Oh.
It's a request that will be backed up with blackmail and possibly light harassment and several questions generated at Nick during auto-assembly.
Sweet. I want to be there during this bombardment.
Okay. Right at this moment, Nick's like, oh, that's it. I'm cancelling. So anyway, Nicole, what do you make of this cover? Because it's a beautiful cover for this issue. Vic astride Mr. Van Helsing's minivan, charging away from a sort of War of the Worlds type heli zombie, hell zombie.
Yeah. Hella-zombie? Hella-zombie. That's a cool word.
That'll do.
I love this cover. Again, it just tells you what you have in store. You're going to have monsters, you're going to have chainsaws, you're going to have zombies. You have Vic here just freaking out, having a good time at the same time. I love it.
It's great. It does set up as well the enemies and the zombies as being sort of large and intimidating. Most zombies in fiction are obviously human-sized. So this gives the idea that they're facing something bigger than themselves. And I love the way the covers are from Vic's point of view. He looks like the complete hero. And it's the rest of the comic that just undermines this every step of the way. We start with our heroes, and Vic, surrounded by zombies and in bad shape. So a quick update, folks. Team Vic consists of the coiffured man himself, his battered monster truck, and iGor, whose main power seems to be boundless, directionless optimism. Yay! Team Helsing consists of April, her father, bitten by a zombie and clearly showing signs of infection, Wheelwolf, a mighty werecar, unfortunately stuck in his bland sedan motor alt mode, and Lagoon Buggy. More of that boundless optimism. Team Zombie are in fine shape, large in number, large in size, and doing very well, thank you very much. And that's the problem. April is almost back-to-back with Vic and warns the scientists that the zombie bites are infectious. Vic notes that zombies isn't exactly the most serious name for such a grave peril. However, MiniVan Helsing is succumbing to his infection from last issue. It doesn't look good for the old man. And you can tell it's getting bad because he calmly announces his intention to eat teammate Lagoon Buggy. Poor old Lagoon Buggy.
I love him more and more with each panel.
I want plushies of iGor and Lagoon Buggy. I'm just saying.
It's just so adorable. I mean, just in the first couple pages, even if you haven't read the first one, you know what these characters are like.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very well written.
It sets them all up. Each of them has a moment in these opening few pages. And, I mean, the way it's done, every character gets a defining trait. It gets a reminder to the reader of what they can do, what they are. So, for instance, Wheelwolf selflessly offers to help. Of course, this would mean someone removing his power dampener so he could change back into his animalistic mode. He promises not to try and escape or to attack people. But after April turns him down, he says, actually, you probably do both. Vic is facing down a zombie hoover, a zombie printer, and he's getting a lower back massage from the Commodore PET, which I'm now going to call the Bedmaster, and orders everyone to retreat to the relative safety of the garage. MiniVan Helsing asks to be left behind. Frankenride disagrees and practically bowels the car into the building. Now, Nicole, so much detail in these opening pages, both in the story and the artwork.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, there's so many little details. You understand that who April is. You understand who Vic is, the personality of the cars. But then there's so many. Let's talk about the backgrounds here. Backgrounds are so fun. There's so much details into it. The rain coming down, it still gives you that sense of murkiness and hostility. You feel like they're in a hostile environment and they've got to get out. I mean, look at the printer. The printer is printing out the word die. The zombie printer prints out die.
It's weird. It's one of those issues where I don't have a problem with stuff. The only problems I have is that we don't get to see more. I wish we'd seen the printer in other scenes and he was spelling out something with the printers. Like in the previous scene, it's you're gonna and then die. Like Vic is staring at him, patiently waiting to see what he's actually saying.
It was because of the old 80s print off line by line.
Brilliant. It chases after him and then suddenly gets stuck. Does not recognize computer.
You don't have a cookie cutter of these zombies.
Yeah.
Each car is different. Each car has its own misshape and its own like little character, even in the background. Great detail. Great detail on reintroducing the story. I mean, it picks up right where this issue one left. I don't feel like just pick this up, they would be lost.
Yeah, and say so many. We can't go through all the little touches, but they're all there, and there's so much in the panels as well. I know Nick has his moments where he will, purposely, like all artists, they will leave a panel quite blank. They'll add a lot of, say, movement lines, and expression in that way, but they'll keep one figure very central for artistic effect. But there is so much background detail in this, and the way that Leonard has kind of structured the colors. The silhouette panel where they're running back. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go into this later, but that is a stunning panel. Absolutely. It's one of the best in the book because it is so atmospheric in what it does. And yet Leonard's kept it incredibly clean in terms of colors. It's like a blue wash. And yet it's, the gradient just works really well for it. So, and of course, because you've got a lot of people talking, this is where Tom's strength comes in, because in this issue, as in the last, every character has his own font. Every character has his own bubble styling for his language. And as well, Van Helsing has a slightly different one, I think, when he's infected.
It starts to get a wiggly a little bit.
So I love the way that they're kind of, the whole creative team is working together to make as much of this as possible.
I downloaded this today off of Comixology, and I decided to do the guided view. Have you ever done that on Comixology?
I think I've done that before. It's interesting.
Because when I went into the guide panel when it came up, it was gorgeous because it took up my whole screen, that one length panel, and you could see so many details of it. And I'm just like, and I didn't get that from the PDF, but oh my gosh, it looks so cool on the screen.
Have you picked up the paper version of the comic yet?
I haven't yet. I was supposed to pick it up today, but I just came home, so I'll probably pick it up tomorrow.
The saturation on the PDF is really poor. When you open up the physical copy, those colors are knockout, really are. And in fact, if anything, it emphasizes that Leonard has isolated characters with color and brighter colors when needed. You know, the zombies, I know they're grey and undead anyway, and the background is murky, but he's still very good at drawing your eye to what you need to see in very, very busy frames, which I know is comic standard. That's what we would expect of Nick. That's what I love about everyone.
This color.
Absolutely. So the team managed to get inside the garage, only to realize that, let's face it, most garages tend to contain vehicles, and Vic's was full of what he calls works in progress, one of which is a floor buffer. Hooray! And these promptly crawl out of the shadows, and April has to get to work. Now, the rest of the team tool up as well, including iGor. Vic's sidekick-in-chief seems rather focused on taking out any inventions that Vic might prefer to him, rather than actual enemies. And as he cocks a nail gun, he gravely utters, "There can be only one." iGor as Connery.
Oh my gosh. I smiled so big at that line when I read it the first time. I'm like, oh, I love it.
and the little sidekick starts proceeding to destroy random stuff, which is not alive, purely for his own selfless actions. But zombies start to burst through the door. And at this point, Frank takes action. Now, for the sake of copyright reasons, I'm going to say that he changed Morphra guises into an alternative mode. There we go. Which is a door stop, which looks just like his truck mode, but turned sideways. Obviously, Frank was a toy of the 80s. Van Helsing at this point is... Sorry. Van Helsing is starting to panic, though. His infection is getting worse, and he's genuinely petrified for his newly expanded team as he starts to lose control. Elsewhere, Wheelwolf finds himself cornered by half a junker. Unable to defend himself in his lame mode, all hope seems lost. Until... I wish I had a heroic theme tune here. Hold on, Wheelwolf. And Lagoon Buggy harpoons the junker with more skill than Scorpion from Mortal Kombat 10. See, we can be topical here. And sends the wreck hurling into a ledge, earning thanks for his efforts. Lagoon Buggy rolls.
Now, the first time I saw this, I thought he was going to anchor Wheelwolf. Man, it's tongue twister. I really thought he's going to anchor him. And then you see him just swiping that other one around. Just like, oh, this is so cool. He gets his spotlight.
He also, as well, he notes, and he's done this a few times, that, you should see me in water. I'm better in water. And he keeps going on about this, and he's done this a few times, and I didn't realize until I reread this, I think the second or third time, that this is something that, he's set up as quite let's face it, a lovable character, but also not the greatest, in his element. But he's not been in his element yet. And that makes what happens later on all the more interesting. But it's not, you're right, it's lovely to see him have a little win, and also get a measure of thanks from Wheelwolf.
Mm-hmm.
We've forgotten, of course, the greatest battle that's going on. Because whilst April is taking out the rest of the garage, iGor is struggling hilariously to take down a Segway.
I
Now,
love that.
this is coordination, people, because it's not just about landing the killer blow. It's also getting the 80s action catchphrase right whilst you're doing it. It's so sweet. And when his little face, when you see later on that Vic has done the job for him, I want a plushie.
I do. He's so dang cute.
So the garage is clear. Well, almost. The back of Helsing's chassis is now a rotten mess. The infection almost halfway through him. April and her father share some touching last words together as she prepares to put him out of his misery and safeguard themselves. It's what needs to be done. But in these final moments, Helsing admits, "I'm sorry I brought you here," which is very touching. "I'm sorry I never listened," which is heartbreaking. "I'm sorry I made you perform an ancient curse which trapped my soul in a minivan." This is like a bucket list of things you never thought you would say on a podcast.
Exactly.
Now, it is touching. You know, it's a final send-off between father and daughter. Admittedly, the father is in a bit of an odd form. But as the moment comes to an end, we find that Vic has his own ideas for the situation. He starts up a chainsaw, yells, "All right, my man, this is probably going to hurt a lot."
Yeah.
And he brings the biting blade down onto Van Helsing's roof, quickly cutting into the metal of his body. And as poor old Van Helsing shrieks for Vic to stop, the young inventor just yells, "Oh, Van up!" People will either, if they're not on board with the comic, that's got to be the acid test, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So many good things.
There are bits going all the way through this. There are bits going on. The lead up to this, what Vic's up to, the expressions on his face as he's dealing with the Van Helsings, because at one point he's trying to be heroic and he thinks he's in charge, but at the same time he's desperately trying to keep afloat of the situation. He just looks so confident and cocky when he brings the chainsaw down. This is probably his greatest moment, and he's actually using common sense as well. However, the back half of Helsing, or say back third of Helsing, falls to the ground as Vic is charged by April. Furious, she rips the chainsaw off him and has it held to his head lengthways. It seems as though she's about to do a farmer on Vic. When I know that would have been one for the fans, but Vic's crazy reasoning actually pays off here. Because he'd not cut to kill Helsing. He'd cut to cure. He'd cut to remove the infected area, something which the Helsings had never considered themselves. And the remaining van left is immobile, yes, a mess, yes, looking comically unbalanced, but he is alive. Again, in this small sequence, everybody getting a moment. And the powerful images as well with Nick, with like the cutting scenes. Really nice stuff.
Well, and the image of April hovering over him, you feel every emotion that she's going through right now. I mean, she has anger, she has fear in her, and you can just feel what she's going through. It's beautiful.
I have to admit, there is the one panel where she actually does thank Vic. He is wearing the smuggest face ever.
I know. He's just like, yeah, I did that.
And if people want to know what the inspiration for that was, I think that was when Nick had actually drawn the Frankenride alt mode and took the Mick out of alt modes. Because if that's not trolling the fans, I don't know what else is.
That's true.
Nick was like, actually, it would be Brian, wouldn't it? It'd be Brian. "I'm going to have an alt mode for the fans and then rip it out of their imaginations by just having him turn sideways." Brian probably doesn't speak like a British English professor, but bless him. So, that the joy of this moment, and the joy that the doctor has been saved, professor has been saved, has slightly lessened by the realization that the zombies are actually leaving. There's no one left in the garage, and there's nothing left now in the yard because everything is heading out. They're looking for a bigger meal. The yard is finished. They're heading for the nearby town of Transylvania. Once they hit, the infection will run rampant, not to mention what happens when humans get involved. As Vic gravely states, like a bunch of giant metal poorly named locusts.
He hates the name zombies, and I think that's wrong, because zombies is awesome.
Please phone in your votes for do they keep or get rid of zombies? They will feature, I'm sure, in future series, so let's find out now. So they need to plan a form of attack. Van Helsing brings up a holographic map of the only road route into town, and despite Vic's inane questions, formulates a plan involving nearby Lake Fulci. It's off the road past George Romero. A couple of nods. Obviously, everyone recognizes George Romero, but also as well one of the masters of horror, which is Lucio Fulci. I bet I've missed some other directors that have been put into this issue.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we've skipped over a lot of little hits and nods, but that's what the beat reader has to do. They got to go and find them themselves.
Indeed, yes. And I don't know. I don't think this is on the TF Wiki, so you haven't got the power of McFeely helping you here. So you're on your own, folks. Right. So that plan, by the way, needs everybody at full strength. Everybody, which means cutting loose both Buggy and Wolf. April warns them to behave, whilst Vic switches off the dampeners and clearly advises, let's misbehave a little. Now, you mentioned, I thought it was a really good point about just the effect of that one silhouette panel, where they're running back to the garage. The thing that I noticed when it came to the dampeners panel was something that Leonard is doing, and it's not good or bad. But if you look at that scene when the dampeners are off, you've almost got a black and white image. You know, it's a very, very grey. There's like a blue wash, and that's pretty much it. If you take a lot of the pages, I did this as an experiment. If you took a lot of the pages in this issue and you switched the colour off, you boosted the contrast and you made it black and white, it is a horrific comic. It's because of the colours involved that are bringing it back up to a more rounded, story for a bigger audience. But you can see in that, that let's misbehave a little. Vic looks damn creepy.
He does look creepy in that.
And so it's a nice touch that Leonard has kept if you like, Nick has done a great job of kind of emphasizing the horror. But Leonard's doing a great job as well of keeping it, nice mid-range for people who don't like horror to enjoy, as well as, regular readers and people who like the monster element.
I'm going to have to go back and read this in black and white now.
Some panels are genuinely hefty, scary, really nasty stuff.
I'm pretty sure, especially with the Hella Zombie, I'm pretty sure his panels look really creepy.
Yeah, I don't think the Printer Zombie, though, is any more heroic or evil or horrific in any other color palette.
He is just as awesome.
He is. There we go. That'll be the next thing. We want a zombie printer plushie, please. Thank you. So, on the road into town, the hordes of unleaded dead are fronted by the freakish helicopter spider thing, which I still think kind of looks like a crane. But then the procession hears the sound of tearing steel, and he turns, stunned by what he sees, frozen by the chilling cry of "Rah!" as Wheelwolf comes roaring up the road, tearing bodily through the zombies in his path in a freaking awesome panel.
Oh my gosh, beautiful.
He then sets his sights on the stupid spider helicopter. Spidopter. There we go. He's a spidopter. Bum bum. And he growls, "You wanted the wolf. Wolf's got to hell."
I love it.
Wheelwolf just knocks everything out of his path with this sonic cannon that erupts from the front of his car. And not only takes everything out as well, it's this on this page you've got Wheelwolf trashing stuff, lots of bright colours, tons of movement all over the place, and then you've got Tom as well who's stuck this big sound effect which works with all the cars kind of flying around it. And that poor old zombcopter just, yeah, he never had a chance.
Not with those legs.
I love as well that just April's in the front, and I get the feeling that she's actually enjoying it.
She does have that look on her face. Hey, this is good, but I've got to brace myself.
You'll see her pop out those little orange earplug things shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah, there you go.
The Howl takes the stupid spider down, and then April chucks out some grenades and takes the stupid spider out. So that's all good. But Wheelwolf took a few of the zombies out. He bounced the rest all over the place, but a lot of them are still up and running. That's when the other team radios in to say they're ready with their part of this plan. And April guns the motor, leading the zombie horde towards the lake. At the lake, we start with a touching scene. At the lake, Buggy is opening up to Vic. Pretty sure I was a prototype vehicle who merged with mutated sea life, so to answer your question, Vic, that's how I came to be. Which unnerves Vic, because he'd never really asked him about anything. Lagoon Buggy is so short on confidence and wants to be liked that he's just started talking about himself. It's so sweet.
Anytime this little guy starts talking, I just fall more in love with him. You just want to take him home and just pet him for some reason.
It's all as well. It's adding to this, this character. It's all a slow build up towards a payoff. So it's not being cloying. It's not being cliched. It's a nice way of setting this guy up. Because when Wheelwolf rocks up, Buggy moves into the line of sight of the zombies, and so they head straight for him. Now, Nicole, remember in The Lion King when Pumbaa turns up at the end and kind of creates a distraction by basically turning up and going, "Hey,
Yes.
I'm good to eat." This is what Lagoon does. "Hey, dummies, I am Lagoon Buggy, and I am delicious." Which is difficult to say without leering into camp, but it's the truth. It's a brilliant line. Buggy zips out into the lake, and the zombies naturally follow. They follow out and then down. Now, my favourite image of this entire issue is the next panel. Buggy, now in his element, shooting down effortlessly with the stunned Vic inside, whilst the horrific zombies are sort of bearing down from the water's surface on top of them. But finally, Lagoon Buggy is in his element. He has the measure of everything here. In fact, he even gets a bit cocky with Vic. So we're finally seeing the character for what he really is. He not only evades the zombies with grace, but he is so confident, he starts singing. Here is the deal, folks. If Brian can get me the full lyrics for this song, I will sing it. But at the moment, I have no idea what it is.
Oh,
I'm thinking there's an element of Flash in here, because the aha,
Flash,
he'll save every one of us. But I don't know.
Oh, that's true. In this whole issue, they've been using the blue tones. And the thing is, this is yet another blue tone page. But you get a feeling that it's different somehow because it is underwater. Even though they're using the same coloring, the same shadings, you still have a feeling of a different element. And that's genius to me.
That's lovely.
That whole page is just gorgeous. That panel that you talk about, that's, again, probably my favorite panel of the whole issue, like you said. It's just beautiful.
I'm hoping to hell next time I go scuba diving in the United Kingdom, I don't end up looking at a scene like that. I've seen vehicles underwater and they just have this really eerie quality to them, especially wrecks, not just boats, but tanks and anything along that. And yeah, just the idea of seeing that falling towards you, eerie, creepy stuff. Well, one thing, I think the thing I like most about this is the way that the inks, the black of the ink has obviously been toned upwards. It's like a very dark blue-grey, which really helps to change the contrast of the entire scene. So you're losing all that colour, as you do underwater anyway, which is nice. So Lagoon Buggy as well has a water wing.
Yes! How cool is that?
It's just wonderful because he's even got bubble shield, and I would love to see more stuff. What he can do in a situation, he might actually end up being far more heroic than we give him credit for.
Like I said, Creature was always my favorite Universal monster, so I'm really gearing towards this guy. I punned that for a reason. So.
Awesome. Right, so they're still managing to keep ahead of all the zombies in the lake, and they suddenly get a radio message informing them that every enemy is now in there with them. So Buggy heads back to the surface and tears out, and at that point, the whole team spring their trap. The zombies start to emerge onto the surface of the lake, only to see Frank roll up. iGor is at the wheel, and Van Helsing is strapped onto Frank's roof. The professor lets rip with that freeze ray from last issue. It's hard to tell if that's all the prof is doing, if he's doing it all himself, or if he's hooked up to Frank's giant lightning rods. But whatever, the ray is on full blast and turns the lake into a solid block of stone-hard ice in mere moments, trapping every zombie in it. Not only that, but iGor finally gets to deliver an 80s action punchline. And he goes with three.
Yes.
Come on then. Give me your best, iGor.
You want me to?
It's a challenge now. Come on.
Okay.
Channel the spirit of iGor.
Okay, so okay, I've got
I'll tell you what, once you've done it, I'll give a dramatic music beat.
I don't know how I picture Igor. Okay. Hey zombies, is it cold in here or is it just you?
Dun dun dun.
Nice to see you.
Dun dun dun.
Have you met my friend Ray? First name Freeze.
Dun dun.
There's my Igor.
He needs to have, I think, there's little mouth organs. Not mouth organs. There's little keyboards that you blow through.
Oh, yeah.
He needs to have a small set of bellows hooked to one of those. And then when he says the line, he kind of pushes his feet down and the thing goes, Igor asks how his catchphrases went down, and the professor is complimentary, saying that it was good working together, so there are more fences being mended here. But lying stuck at the surface, the poor old pet master computer knows its chips are done for. Hard luck, hard drive. It's the end. Now, the story ends with two different points of view. We read Vic's thoughts, and then we see what's actually happening in reality. So, in his mind, Vic has saved the day again. April wants her on her team, but he's too cool for that. Not me. I'm a one-man band, a lone wolf. Lone wolf with a talking truck and a robot scientist. In reality, April just wants to get the hell away from this place, from this town, from these creatures, and from Vic, though her mood is cheered by the fact that Wheelwolf and Buggy have voluntarily joined her team. Both are having fun, apparently destroying the zombies before the ice melts, but they're not exactly doing that. Wheelwolf is tearing cartwheels or possibly making an ice angel, whilst iGor is using Lagoon Buggy's harpoon to basically ice skate whilst being towed at high speed. He's putting his hand up as a wave, and it just looks like that scene when Marty is hanging on in Back to the Future 1 to the back of the truck, and he waves into the cafe as he goes past. It's just amazing. Next time I want to see him doing pirouettes or something. Anyway, back to Vic's mind. Vic's mind is, the Van Helsings want to join forces. They want to merge with Team Frankenstein. I guess things are pretty boring for them. When in reality, the professor offers to help him a little bit by email, shore up the junkyard, and offers a bit of advice on Cadillacula if he ever returns. And then the ground shakes. And then a section starts to bulge out. And it seems that when the Helsing said about moving on and leaving, they'd sorted transportation already. A massive, freaking huge, spectral steam train with a face like Thomas the Tank Engine's worst nightmare erupts from the ground. The ghost train has arrived. That's it. Vic is clearly so impressed. He jumps up to April and just announces, "I'm in!" Which April has no understanding of what he's talking about, and you just see the slow horror of the fact that she might be sidled with this idiot for another issue of Monster Motors.
I love that expression on her face, like, oh, what? Huh? Like, who invited you?
And that's the end of the main story. That's the end of everything, apart from one little thread. Nearby, on a small path, a lone zombie scooter, that scooter that infected Van Helsing, splutters and groans as it makes its way slowly forward. It's missed the rest of its group. It wasn't fast enough, and so was left behind. But somebody was waiting for it, because as it turns a corner, it comes face to face with a small group of dark and truly monstrous motors. The leading vehicle, a sleek black engine powered by Hellfire, regards the scooter dispassionately.
Sloppy. They left one behind. We drop this simple motor scooter into a heavily populated area and watch him spawn endless zombies. Victor Frankenstein has given us the means to destroy not only him, but also this wretched world of humans. There will be no stopping Cadillacula's army of darkness.
The end.
No, it's not the end.
So we leave Cadillacula, Mr. Hydra, and a certain invisible vehicle to their newest recruit, a zombie. So, Nicole, it's the end.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It can't end. I'm enjoying this way too much. It can't end.
Here's a question. Did you expect this to end at the yard? Did you expect this story to just end with something at the yard and that would be it?
You know what? In all fairness, I thought so because I haven't heard anything about this continuing on after this two-parter. Mm-hmm. But then they gave me this little bit of goodness, and I'm just like, yay! It was so good to see Cadillacula back. They mentioned him in the first issue. They never saw him, and I like to see that there's a hope for the future, that we're going to get some more zombies and more monsters.
And did you think, in terms of the story as well, that they were going to have a showdown at the yard and that would be it? Did you expect them to do this extra bit with the lake?
Oh no, I thought it probably would have ended inside his garage. I honestly, reading the first time through, I honestly did not expect MiniVan Helsing to survive. I thought because he got bit in the last issue, I'm like, this is going to be his story, and it's going to end. And if they continue on, they'll go on to the story of another monster, because like in the very first issue, it was more like Frankenright's kind of story in Cadillacula. This was MiniVan Helsing story. So I didn't honestly think he was going to come out of it. So that was a nice surprise when I read it. So
yeah.
And the ghost train at the end, awesome, because I didn't even think of a ghost. I mean, they have all these other monsters in here, and I'm like, so that was a great 2-page surprise when you open that up.
Yeah, that's an amazing image as well, isn't it?
Gorgeous. Yeah, they did a great job. No, I mean, there was a lot of good little surprises and nods. Well, what did you think? How did you feel that this was going to end?
I thought it was going to be I was really pleased when they moved the story to the lake, because it not only then gives Lagoon Buggy a payoff, but it added an extra element to the world. And this will be my only problem and is, I think, a problem with the stories today. Because they've been short, they've concentrated on a very small world. We have grown and expanded out a little bit. But with a 2-issue, you set it up and then you wrap it up. So you set up the problem, the threat, the challenge, and in the second one you wrap it up and you solve it, and hopefully your hero, comes across and boom, and wins the day. I was worried that if it stayed at the yard, that it would be just them battling back and hooray, they've won. Whereas with this, it just adds an extra element. It adds a bit of, well, for a start, they're not just surviving, they take them on, but also gives everyone an extra moment to shine. And you've got 2 or 3 sequences in this second issue alone where every character gets their moment in short succession. There's like before the charge to the garage, inside the garage when they're doing that, then at the lake when they get to kind of all contribute to this end. In fact, the only one who really does very little is Frankenride himself, who, apart from a doorstop and pushing the professor into the garage, doesn't really do anything. He's just there.
Like I said, we had his story before.
Yeah, that's true. So he's now like a support, and in a future issue, he might take more of a center stage. But everyone else gets their moment. It's great.
Even little iGor. Yeah,
So, okay, what would you like them to do next?
Well, like I said, I like the idea of Cadlacula building up an army.
Yeah.
To see like more monsters coming into play. Maybe get the mummy in there. We haven't had the mummy yet,
Ooh.
so or maybe. Okay, I'm totally going Universal Studio monster.
Yeah.
Here. Somehow Vince Frankenride that he needs to come to his side, maybe get the Bride of Frankenstein, convince him with Bride of Frankenstein,
Would that be April, and then she has a freak accident that permanently electrifies her hair?
Oh, that'd be cool. I really like April. That's another thing about the female character April. She is strong, but yet she is also still very feminine.
Yeah.
Oh god, I can never say that.
You know what I'm saying? She's still a lady.
Because sometimes in a lot of comic books you get a heroic woman and they make her really manly, and you're just like, okay. Yeah. But I really like how they've written her. It's really well done. Oh my gosh, I have so many different things I would like to see with this. Of course, the Jekyll and Jekyll, we don't have his story yet, so I'd like to see what's his deal,
Yeah, would the next one be more an origin for the bad guys?
Yeah, that'd be really good, because how would they write in the Invisible Sedan? That's also another question, because he's going to be kind of a hard character to write for, sometimes draw for, So there's that challenge. I'd like to see where they go with that.
I think the biggest thing I would like them to do is at least a 4-issue, because again, you have setup and then you have resolve with 2 issues, which is great. But I would like more, because then you get setup, then you get character discussion, and you get more of a feel of that world, the people, everything involved in it, and then you get the payoff. And the payoff works better the more character you put into this. And Brian has put a lot into it. I mean, it's constantly going back to the characters, reinforcing the way Wheelwolf is, the way Buggy is, the way Vic is. They all get these moments to remind the reader of what they are, so that the payoff works better. But yeah, adding a couple of extra issues could ramp up the tension a little bit more, and give us more of the wider world. What's Vic's who else does Vic know? How does he act with the townspeople or the, just people in general? What does the law think of all this stuff? Is there an agency involved in this? And, a nice bigger world. But
I mean, look at the last page. Cadlacula is talking about a major metropolitan area.
That'd be amazing.
Dump this cute little, this scooter is adorable, by the way. I know he's supposed to be scary, but he's adorable. And I'm glad they kept him because that was a nice little surprise as well.
He'll be like their pet.
You know, it's just it's fun to see him at the very end, and he meets up with these three massive characters, and you can see he's like looking at him like, what just happened? You know? I mean, just this little guy has so much character in him. Just very well written.
Nice. So, okay, what would you rate this then? And I mean, we might as well. We're talking about the second part of a two-parter, so you might as well. I imagine the rate for this issue will probably be the same as the story as a whole. But what would you give it out of 5?
Like I said at the beginning, even if you didn't read the first one, you picked this up. You got the sense of the characters. You've got the sense of what's going on. You had that same feeling of there's a threat going on. I feel like it's too high, but I'm definitely giving it a 4.5, easily 4.5.
Nice.
Yeah, because there was a few little hiccups, but nothing really. I just enjoyed it. And the surprise at the end to know that it might be continuing, that gave me tingles. Like, oh yay, it's going to continue, because I didn't think way I was understanding it was going to be a 2-part issue, and that was the end of Monster Motors. And so, yeah, 4.5. Well written, well drawn, well edited. Colors, the colors are beautiful. Like I said, that ghost train's gorgeous. So, yeah. What about you?
For me, I'm going to give it a 4 because there's so much good stuff in this. I think it's why as well I've been so passionate about this. I know people. I've chatted to people and they like Nick's work. I mean, they love, Nick's Transformer work, and they aware of what Brian's done in terms of his writing, and they're fully on board with that. But they're not that bothered about the issue, and they're also quite surprised why I'm so excited by it. But I just think it's a great mix of these creative talents that's working well. I mean, I've never hidden away from the fact the reason this is on an Underbase review is because I really like it. It's not being selfish. It's just I think maybe 1 or 2 people who listen to this will go, I'll give it a go, and hopefully they'll like it. I just, as a whole, it works really well, and it's a great little idea. The potential it has is still outstripping what we're seeing, because we're seeing little bites. We're not seeing the full thing. But, listening as well to the way that Brian's talking about it, Nick's talking about it, they're clearly connecting with these characters. And Brian as well, it wouldn't surprise me if he was trying to do something longer with this whole storyline. Maybe once, that small thing that he's working on over the summer is out of the way, maybe we'll get a longer form version of this.
Oh, I would hope so. Well, as a full series though, I'm gonna give it a 4 just because of the screwed up publication. You know what I'm talking about? You don't know if this is gonna happen again. If this is the end of it, it's still great. But it still teases you, like, this is the potential, but we're not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And that's what hurts me the most. It's just like, am I going to see this again? So, overall, it's a solid 4, if not just a little bit more.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Because, say, we're getting little bites, but also as well, it's not helped that the publication of this was moved around a bit, and it just doesn't seem to have been given some of the press that it could have been. I think a stronger boost behind this. I mean, there are not that many people reviewing this, and there are not many people making a noise. And yet, when I went into, I saw some of the tweets as well from the first issue, and a lot of places sold out of this very quickly.
Well, my comic book shop didn't even hear what this was about. So when I requested it, he's like, what's it about? And I had to tell, I'm like, there was like hardly any advertisement for it. And I think that's sad, because this is still probably one of the best little mini series I've read in the past couple of years.
Hopefully we'll get something more from these guys, and you never know, when the collected edition of these two comes out, we might see if we can chat to 1 or 2 of them and get their feedback on the issue, the story as a whole, and the world, and see if we can get any more stuff. it can harass Brian.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll go down well.
Are we going to get our Franken bride?
I think so. Would you mind drawing me another month of motors? I'd mostly appreciate that. Thank you, Brian. And by the way, if this ever makes it to a animated movie, I think we should get cameos as confused local radio hosts who have no idea what's going on.
Okay, that sounds.
And we can do it. We
I'd
can do it in our worst accents as well.
We can do it. Oh, we're good to pre-show talk.
I'm an American DJ, and this is how an American DJ from this part of the woods sounds. What's the weather like, Miss Nicole?
Well, you see now. Right now, it doesn't look too good out there. Looks like a bunch of water in the mud. A storm's kicking up a bunch of dirt.
So anyway, Mr. Carl, thank you very much for accompanying me.
Thank you. I've had so much fun. I'm such a monster fan. This is so much fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Obviously, I would thank those people who have listened and picked up the comic, and I'd thank those people who maybe for whatever reason have not decided to pick up the comic, but at least they've seen it. But I would also like to thank you, dear listener, who maybe has no idea of what this series is, has not been able to find it at their local comic shop, and is wondering what on earth we're going on about with Lagoon Buggy's voice. Honestly, when you read the page, you will have a similar voice in your head. I've never wanted to give a car a hug before.
I know, he's so adorable.
So
The thing is, it's hard to hug a car, especially that has spikes kind of coming off of them.
you can
I can't
you
imagine
can hug
his fins feel so.
you can hug his water wing.
There you go.
So on that emotional car-based moment, we will leave you. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll speak to you again on another edition of the Underbase. Goodbye.
Aloha.
Underbase complete. Cease transmission.